We're here to idea everyone, to fire up your curiosity and connect you with the people and ideas that shape our world. Watch, listen, understand, connect, create. Let's move the human story forward together.
Hello and welcome to The Poetry of Science, a podcast which provides insight into new scientific research via the medium of poetry. I'm your host, Dr. Sam Illingworth, and each week I'll be introducing you to some of the latest scientific findings and sharing a selection of science-themed poetry. After all, we could all do with a little bit more poetry in our lives. In this episode I'll be exploring new research which has found that the microplastics in Auckland's air is equal to 3 million plastic bottles every year. Waves break against the shore, every quiver spitting scree and scum into the warm and flawless sky. Heavy mouthfuls of unseen waste that cut and prod and delve. We try to count the cost with eyes too wide to see, every breath a sharp and rancid taste of what we failed to save. This poem is inspired by recent research published in Environmental Science and Technology, which has found that in Auckland, New Zealand, 74 metric tonnes of microplastics are dropping out of the atmosphere onto the city every year. Over the last 70 years, 8.3 billion metric tonnes of plastic have been produced globally. Only 9% of these have been recycled, with the rest either incinerated or released into the environment. Nanoplastics are tiny particles that range between 1 and 100 nanometres in size. For scale, 1 nanometre is equal to 1 billionth of a metre, meaning that they can potentially enter cells, cross the blood-brain barrier, and build up in organs such as the testicles, liver, and brain. Similarly, microplastics, i.e. materials containing particles that are less than 5 millimetres in size, have also been detected in human lungs and in the lung tissue of cancer patients, indicating that the inhalation of atmospheric microplastics is an exposure risk to humans. However, given the difficulty of detecting such small particles, it is likely that researchers have been dramatically undercounting the amount of airborne microplastics. In this new study, researchers in Auckland, New Zealand have used sophisticated chemical methods to find and analyse particles as small as 0.01 millimetres. Using this approach, the researchers calculated that 74 metric tonnes of microplastics are dropping out of the atmosphere and onto the city every year, the equivalent of more than 3 million plastic bottles falling from the sky. The average number of airborne microplastics detected in Auckland in 1 square metre in a single day was found to be 4,885. This compares with estimates from other previous studies of 771 in London, 275 in Hamburg and 110 in Paris. Given that these are all cities that have traditionally been assumed to be much higher polluters than Auckland, it is likely that we have been significantly underestimating the extent of this issue. Whilst the waves breaking in the Hauraki Gulf may play a key role in Auckland's problem by transmitting waterborne microplastics into the air, future work is now clearly needed at a global level to quantify exactly how much plastic we are breathing in. Now that you've heard the science, let me read the poem to you again. Waves break against the shore, every quiver spitting scree and scum into the warm and flawless sky. Heavy mouthfuls of unseen waste that cut and prod and delve. We try to count the cost with eyes too wide to see, every breath a sharp and rancid taste of what we failed to save. In this section of the podcast, I'd like to share a poem written by another poet on a topic related to the science that has been discussed so far. In this episode, I'll be reading Plastic Bag from Corner Store Laments the Self by Elia Cotton. Elia Cotton is an American poet who was born in Virginia in 1997. She received her BA from the University of Virginia and her MFA in poetry writing from Boston University, where she is a recipient of the Robert Pinsky Global Fellowship. Her work has appeared in Spires, Quadramag, Poetry, and elsewhere. She also creates music under the moniker October Love. Plastic Bag from Corner Store Laments the Self by Elia Cotton. When they finally find me all sprawled in the limbs of this tall oak, who can't look me in the eyes anymore, I'll ask that simple question of myself, where I might be taken or take myself when the power lines quit humming their work songs to the fading red and black and blue graffiti lining the underpass where I spent my youth grazing, or when the moon turns blood red and maudling and cops me back up on the mangled Chesapeake shores. And when they ask why I'm there, I'll slouch my shoulders, and when they ask where I'm going, I'll quote the sky again. I learned at birth to smile where my teeth are not, and I learned after. Everything that opens is a mouth. Every mouth will spit you right out. Thank you for listening to the Poetry of Science.
Thank you very much for being with us for this episode of the ideaXme Show. ideaXme is a global platform. Our mission is to move the human story forward by sharing knowledge of the future. You can find us on all major audio networks at www.radioideaXme.com, on YouTube and Vimeo. Please subscribe.